Millennia before the Republic's founding, the galaxy was ruled by a force-wielding species known as the Rata. Their cruel infinite empire wielded highly advanced force technology, which they used to conquer and enslave hundreds of planets across the galaxy. On the forefront among these planets were the core worlds, a group of human-dominated planets such as Coruscant and Corellia that would one day form the Republic. But first, these worlds would suffer for centuries under the oppression of Rakatan rule. Years before the rise of the Infinite Empire, an ancient species native to the outer rim world of Dathomir developed an advanced network of force-powered structures capable of near-instant interstellar travel. These structures were called Infinity Gates, and the beings who had developed them, the Qua. The gates were accessed through the use of a star chamber, which was in turn built within a massive pyramidal structure known as a star temple. Inside the star chamber was what the Qua called a realm of infinity, quote, a pocket dimension that housed the central control station which was used to manipulate the power of infinity, later known as the Force. Millennia after the extermination of the Qua by the Rakata, and the devolving of their species into a primitive and semi-sentient Quai, the immense power of the Infinity Gates would continue to attract Force users from across the galaxy, most of whom would fail in their efforts. However, in 31 BBY, the Nightsisters who had occupied the forlorn planet of Dathomir following the loss of the Qua succeeded in capturing a star temple. They had plotted to destroy Coruscant utilizing the Infinity Gates, which alternatively functioned as superweapons capable of directing deadly waves of force energy towards targets across the galaxy. Ultimately, their plans would never come into fruition, stopped by the efforts of the Jedi Knight Quinlan Vos. Using the Infinity Gates technology, the Qua would colonize their surrounding worlds, formulating themselves into a regional empire that came to be known as the Qua Holdings. However, unlike many of the civilizations that would eventually come to succeed them, the Qua endeavored not to exploit, but to better the galaxy. The Qua traversed their empire, bringing knowledge and civilization to the primitive people all across the galaxy, laying down the first foundations of infrastructure, government, economy, politics, everything that would come to dominate the galaxy in the following years. Eventually, the Qua arrived on the planet Lihon, homeworld of the Rakata. As they had done before, the Qua uplifted the Rakata, teaching them about the Force and instilling civilization into their still isolated society. However, instead of embracing the Qua's teachings of balance and compassion, the Rakata drifted towards the dark side of the Force, developing an insatiable thirst for conquest and domination. In counter, the Qua fled the planet and destroyed its Infinity Gate. However, using Qua technology, as well as their own significantly powerful Force powers, the Rakata built an enormous space station, fueling it with the energy of a star. This space station would come to be known as the Star Forge, and would persist for millennia after the fall of the Rakata, eventually finding its way into the hands of the Dark Lords Revan and Malak. The Starforge enabled the Rakata to produce an unlimited amount of warships, which they used to conquer the known galaxy. The Qua, who had inadvertently began the Rakatan era of conquest, were exterminated, and the Infinite Empire was established as the first major power of the galaxy. By 30,000 BBY, the Infinite Empire had reached its apex, linking over 500 planets all across the galaxy. Many of these worlds became subject to Rakatan slavery, the Infinite Empire having developed powerful force technology that could only be fueled by the slaves' dark side emotions converted into energy. Around 3,000 years later, the Rakata would venture onto the Sith planet of Korriban, but be driven off by none other than the legendary King Adas. Through the power of the slaves, their unparalleled military prowess, and their unpredictable yet impossibly destructive force technology, the Infinite Empire dominated the galaxy, which would remain under the oppression of the Rakata for the next 5 millennia. But, like all beings solely object to the dark side, the Rakata eventually fell victim to their own technology and force power, creations like the Starforge feeding off its Rakatan masters' aggressive tendencies, corrupting them, making them irrational, and ultimately unfit to rule. After millennia of galactic supremacy and control, the Infinite Empire began to fracture under its own pressure. Slave revolts erupted throughout the borders of the Empire, throwing the galaxy into civil war. Already vulnerable, the Rakata would suddenly be struck by a deadly plague, which would nearly exterminate the Rakatan species. In 25,000 BBY, the Great Infinite Empire would be brought to its knees, its leaders driven back to their homeworld, Lihon. Over time, a mutation in the disease would cause the Rakata to lose their force sensitivity. Thousands of years later, the redeemed Revan would arrive on the planet and discover the Rakata in the last stages of their existence, their gene pool insufficient to sustain the species in the generations to come. With the advent of the Galactic Republic, all history of the Infinite Empire would be erased, their glorious past lost from the pages of galactic history.